You're listening to Manx Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And that is the familiar music that tells us that once again it is time for us to welcome Howard Parkin into the studio for this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night. Howard, Fastamai and welcome.
Fastamai, Judith, it's great to be here again.
And have you got another packed programme for us?
Oh, absolutely. It's a question of deciding what to leave out because we haven't got enough time.
Well, isn't that the best way to be?
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to do as we always do and start off with the prospects of what we might see. Unless, of course, Howard, there's anything sensational happened in the Manx skies in the last week or so that you would like to comment on?
Well, I'd comment on the fact that the total lunar eclipse, which we were going to see a few weeks ago at moonrise, was a complete and utter washout. The weather was appalling. We didn't see a thing. I believe some people in Ramsey got a glimpse of it, but it was a shame because it was quite spectacular. It was going to rise eclipsed and then stop being eclipsed, obviously. So that was quite disappointing. That was followed by a solar eclipse visible in New Zealand a few days ago now, actually. But other than that, I'm afraid not much to talk about from the past point of view, except to say, haven't we had some stunning evenings this last week? Absolutely amazing, stunning skies, no moon, and the stars have been bright and the sky's been really clear, and a couple of times I've just been outside just wondering at it. I always say to people, we say this quite often on this programme, and I really mean it, you don't need binoculars, you don't need a telescope, just go outside and look at the sky and wonder, and hopefully we may be able to tell a little bit about what you're looking for through this show and indeed any other media we might use.
Even if when we get outside we can't remember exactly what you've said, speaking for myself, I'll look and think, well, perhaps that is Venus, or could it be? So you do give an added layer of interest to it. But as you say, first and foremost, it's going out and enjoying it.
Go outside and enjoy it.
And we are getting a real autumn feel to the days,
very much
aren't
so.
we?
The temperature's dropping, but not dropping too much, so you don't have to get wrapped up that warm.
No.
And people obviously think when we do astronomy, you're wrapped up really warm in coats and gloves and hats and scarves. But this time of year, you get away with literally just going outside with a jumper on and just spend a half an hour or 20 minutes or so just looking up, because there's always something to look for, which we'll tell you about in just a minute.
Off you go, Howard. It's going to
Weather
happen.
permitting. I don't have any responsibility for the weather. That's Manx Radio's responsibility. I arrange the skies and what's in them.
That's a good deal.
I think so. But the first thing you can't miss at the moment is the autumnal sky is a lot fainter than the bright stars we have in the winter, in particular coming up in a few months' time. And some of the stars of summer. We have this wonderful triangle in the sky called the summer triangle, imaginatively enough. And that is slowly setting in the west now, leaving us with a sort of a blank canvas almost of not much in the way of bright objects in the southern sky. And we're talking about 10 o'clock at night now. But this year, right bang in the middle is a distinctively yellowy coloured star. And it really stands out, and you think for a minute, I thought to myself, what's that? I hadn't thought about it myself even. It's the planet Saturn. And the planet Saturn is a wonderful signpost for us this autumn because it's sitting right below the group of stars known as the Square of Pegasus. And the Square of Pegasus and the legend of Andromeda and all this stuff, the ancient legend of Andromeda and the king and the queen, Cassiopeia and Cepheus, and all that sort of stuff really dominates our skies in the autumnal months. And I saw Saturn the other night when I was outside stargazing, and I thought, what a wonderful signpost it is, because you can't miss it. It's the only really bright object in that southern area of the sky. And directly above it is a distinctive, it's not quite a square, it's more of a rectangle, but it's the right shape, it's not angled in a wrong position. It's sitting like a square above the southern horizon, or a rectangle to be more precise, and that's the Square of Pegasus. So I thought it would be interesting to give a challenge to people this month, because it's easy to see, and this is the time of the month to see it because the moon isn't dominating or causing any problems. So what I want people to do is find for yourself the Square of Pegasus. That's your first challenge. find the square of Pegasus, which you can't miss. Just find this distinctively bright yellowy coloured object, which is the planet Saturn. Directly above it is this rectangle or square. I want you to count how many stars you can see inside the square. It's one of these astronomical challenges which, if you've got really good clear skies, you can see quite a few. And I'm not going to give the answer until next month, because we have got brilliant skies in the Isle of Man. We've got brilliantly dark skies in the Isle of Man. We know about the dark sky sites and all the rest, and that's something that is progressing slowly and steadily, I'm delighted to say. But if you've got good clear dark skies, see how many stars you can see. So there's the challenge for the month.
Good enough. Thank you very much, Howard. I heard somebody saying not so long ago that there are in fact more stars than there are grains of sand.
I use that quite often as an analogy. There are more stars in the sky than grains of sand on the beaches of the earth. And, just to make it blow your mind even further, there's more galaxies in the whole universe than there are grains of sand on the beaches of the earth.
So just think, you can go on doing this programme forever and ever, and you will never run out of things to talk
No,
about.
absolutely not.
Because things like the James Webb telescope and all of these things will be discovering things that we've talked about before that have changed our thinking. And
Still are doing.
But I'm not going to let you get away, Howard, with mentioning Andromeda and a king and a queen and not reminding us of the story.
Oh, the story of Andromeda. I love telling this story. It's one of my favourite talks I do on the ships and in my lectures and my night school and things. So basically, you've got the king Cepheus and the queen Cassiopeia, who had a daughter called Andromeda. And they boasted that their daughter was the most beautiful creature in the universe, not just on the earth, but in the universe. This angered the gods somewhat. So they decided to send all sorts of problems down to the land and cause problems. And in the end, they begged the gods to stop doing this. And they said, well, if you want us to stop doing this, you've got to sacrifice your daughter. So they chained Andromeda to a rock, which you can see in the sky. You can see the stars of Andromeda, and you can imagine she's chained to a rock. And they sent the monster to devour her. But in the nick of time, Perseus, the hero Perseus, riding by on his winged horse Pegasus, saw Andromeda chained to the rock, saw the monster, and Perseus, who had just slain the Medusa the Gorgon, whose gaze could turn anyone into stone, he'd just chopped off her head to kill her, using the shield so he didn't gaze in the eyes and get turned to stone. So he chopped off the head, went past the monster, showed the head to the monster was turned to stone. Perseus rescues Andromeda, and they all lived happily ever after.
Oh, I'm really glad I asked you to tell that story again.
But now this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a star in the constellation of Perseus called Algol, and Algol means the winking eye of the demon. And this star blinks. It goes brighter and then fainter over a period of 67 hours. The ancient astronomers didn't know what made this star blink. They decided that was the Gorgon. That was the eye of the Gorgon staring at you to turn you into stone. We now know that is what we call an eclipsing binary star. But the ancient astronomers way back 1,000, 1,500 years ago, when these legends all came into being, didn't know that. We only learnt this about 100 years ago. So it's incredible. A legend, absolutely lovely story, great happy ever after story, isn't it? But there's a germ of truth in it. And furthermore, the Andromeda galaxy is regarded by most astronomers and anyone in the world who's ever seen it as one of the most beautiful objects in the whole universe, because it really is a fantastic sight, the Andromeda galaxy.
But you can totally understand how these people would look at the beauty and the mystery of the sky, which is still beautiful and mysterious to us in a way.
Yeah,
no, and that they would build legend around it because they had nothing else to.
It is one of the most well-known. There's 8 constellations in that legend of the 88 constellations in the sky, and lots to see in them. So although I talk about the square of Pegasus and seeing how many stars are within the square of Pegasus, which is an easy thing to do, that whole area is full of these legends.
But in a way, calling it the Square of Pegasus kind of keeps a little bit of the legend going.
Yes, it does.
With the more modern interpretation of what we're seeing.
Oh, very much so. And lots of these names, I mean, we have what we call asterisms. An asterism is a group of stars that are not a constellation. The Plough is an asterism inside the constellation of Ursa Major, the Big Bear. The Square of Pegasus is an asterism in the constellation of Pegasus. And so the Summer Triangle is 3 stars in 3 bright stars we see in the summer. People joke about the names of constellations. That doesn't look like a bear or a lion or a hunter. But we have squares, we have triangles, we have rectangles, you name it. We've got every sort of shape in the sky. So we're just as bad today. We use familiar names to describe things we recognise, so we can at least recognise them for ourselves.
Yeah, indeed. Right, so quick recap. How many stars are in the square of Pegasus?
Yeah, don't count the 4 corner stars. I want to know how many stars you can see. I'll give you a clue. It's not as many as you might think. You might think there's none whatsoever.
I don't think that's a clue.
No, if you can see down to what we call the 6th magnitude, you will be able to see quite a few. And we use a scale of magnitude. We use a scale, and it goes down to what 6.5 is the naked eye visibility. And we think from the Isle of Man we can see down to that on a clear night. And this is the time of the year. You haven't got much heat in the atmosphere, so you've not got any haze or anything like that. And if it goes cool, go outside and give it a go. And we'll just be interesting to see what sort of answers people come up with.
Have a look, make a note of it, and then join in the programme final Sunday of next month, the final Sunday of October.
Yep.
And then
We'll
you
discuss it.
can text your answers in then when Howard is while he's in the studio. You can text the answers in, and we will be able to compare the answers and see who's got the closest. How
Yep,
about that?
Absolutely great idea.
So let's make a date and do it like that. You can text or email in to the studio, to the programme on the final Sunday of October. We'll have a bit of fun with that.
Why not?
And see who our expert stargazers are.
Can't cheat though. You can't look it up in the internet.
Just as if. Now, we've got some more meteors later this month, and also we've got to talk about Saturn. Do
Well,
those whichever way you
Well,
wish. Howard.
Saturn, I've already mentioned, is that bright star below the square of Pegasus. Very unmistakable, very bright, very easy to spot. Not particularly attractive at the moment because its rings are almost edge-on to us. You can, if you've got a huge, not huge, but a telescope, you'll make out that there's something sticking out the sides of it, which are the rings of Saturn. But it's not. The rings are not displayed in their glorious way they are and can be seen other times. But it's the only planet really visible we've got in our evening sky at the moment. But we have got Jupiter coming up thick and fast in the constellation of Gemini. And of course, if you want to get up early in the morning and look at the sky around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, you cannot fail to be amazed by the brilliance of the planet Venus, which is rising in the sky before the sun comes up in the morning.
And the 21st of October is the date for the Orion.
The Orionid meteor shower. I always rank the meteor showers as gold, silver and bronze, and I would put the Orionids as a silver. The 2 gold ones are the Perseids in August, we spoke about a few weeks ago now, and the Geminids in December. But the Orionids and the Taurids and a few others, I'd classify them as a meteor shower that's worthy of a silver medal. And the beauty of it this year is the Orionids, the full moon the new moon takes place on the 21st of October, the same day. So there'll be no moonlight to interfere. So that is always something good you need. So there you go, double-edged sword. You see, beautiful. It's going to be a clear night on the 21st of October. How's that for a prediction? No moon, Orionid meteor shower, and count the stars in Pegasus. There you go.
And do you know something, Howard? I cannot believe that we haven't played before the most perfect songs that we could have for Manx Sky at Night. And it's Coldplay's Sky Full of Stars.
Perfect.
'Cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. 'Cause you're a sky full of stars. 'Cause you light up the park. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Cause in a sky full
You're listening to the September edition of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin, and that has got to be one of the most appropriate songs for our music break. Coldplay's A Sky Full of Stars. Well, Howard, from a sky full of stars, we're now going into outer space, aren't we?
The world of space, absolutely, and there's so much going on again. It amazes me every month. Little bit of information for listeners, what we do. We actually plan this. There is actually a list of what we want to talk about. There is some planning goes into it. And I sit there thinking, what should we talk about this month? And I just get a piece of paper and it just list after list after list. And we always run out. So I usually carry them over to the next month or maybe 2 months' time. We'll wait and see.
By which time, sometimes with the space stories, things have changed
Things have
because
changed dramatically,
things can
yeah.
change from day to day. Just
do.
before we run out of time, because we always get beaten by the clock.
do.
And I feel that we neglect your night school classes.
Oh, right.
And you've just got a couple of places left, haven't you,
Yeah,
for
I'm
the new term?
delighted. I'm delighted this year. As it's my 41st year. I started doing it in 1985. And
They don't allow child lecturers anymore now, do they, Howard?
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, I started doing it in 1985 when Halley's Comet came around, and I've been doing it ever since. And every year I think, I won't carry on. But then I think, go on. People say to me, are you doing your classes again this year? It's only for 12 weeks. It starts on the 14th of October. And if you are interested, I understand there's just a couple of spaces left. If you are interested, get in touch with UCM, Adult Education and Adult Education and Leisure, I think it's called. And they'd be delighted to give you the details. And hopefully, if you're interested, I'll see you on the 14th of October.
And what night of the week
It's
is that?
on a Tuesday night at the Alaman College or the University College of Man.
And so that's every Tuesday night. It's a block of Tuesday night.
Pretty well it's almost 12 weeks consecutively, then right from the 14th of October. There's a bit of a gap in February, which we won't talk about, and then we finish it off in March.
Is there any opportunity in that? Do you ever take your students to the observatory? Or?
Oh yes, I usually get to the observatory at least once. We try and get to the observatory at least once as an outing, if you like. And if it's clear, we'll go outside stargazing. But we joke about the weather, but there have been years when I've done my night school classes and we haven't seen a single star in the sky. Other years, I think I did 3 or 4 sessions on the bounce. We were outside stargazing. So the weather is not good, but on the other hand, that makes it more special when we do get a clear sky.
Of course it does. Right. Now, having done that, what's NASA up to? What's everybody doing there?
Well, there's a bit of a flux going around with NASA at the moment. I mean, the big announcement only a few days ago is that the Artemis 2 mission, which is the mission returning men and women to the moon for the very first time since 1972, that mission was meant to be launched no later than April 2026. They've now brought it forward, which is, I won't say unheard of, but it's certainly unusual to bring launches forward rather than drop them back. And this mission is going to send 3 men and 1 woman all the way to the moon and back. They're not going to orbit the moon, they're just going to go round the moon, go on what they call a free return trajectory, like Apollo 13 did, and they're going to come back. And that will then lead on to the next Artemis mission, which is actually going to be the one where they'll return to the moon and land on it. It's all very exciting, and the budget for that has all been approved and everything's been done, and we're very excited about that. And I actually know one of the astronauts. I met him on one of the cruise ships I was on some time ago, a chap called Victor Glover, a lovely bloke, and he sends me a blog every now and then. And he told me this story about they were going to announce the February launch date. And he's excited about it, and so am I. And I'm really looking forward to hearing all about it and seeing it take off and giving us the pictures of the moon again with human eyes. And this time there's going to be a woman on board as well, and Victor himself is of colour. And that, if you like, expands this idea that it's the whole of mankind, it's the whole of humankind that is involved in these things now, and that's rightly so. And we'll wait and see how it goes, and hopefully it leads to the landing on the moon in late 27, I think, is the plan to land on the moon. But again, that might change.
But these whole programmes just seem to be getting faster and faster.
They do.
Instead of them doing one expedition and then perhaps 5 or 6 years before the next thing happens.
Well, that's what NASA were famous for. They used to be very, apart from the moon landings, which was a different thing altogether. But now you've also got a lot of commercial space exploration going on. And literally any day now, we're going to have the launch of the New Glenn rocket by Jeff Bezos' company Blue Origins, who are going to launch this first launch of their brand new rocket. Is going to send 2 spacecraft from NASA's to Mars. And this is commercial, but it's being used on a rocket. Very cleverly, Jeff Bezos has built these rockets. He's a bit like the other guy, Elon Musk, but he's a bit behind, if you like, in this. He had his first rocket was called New Shepard, which is named after Alan Shepard, who did the suborbital flight back in 1962. You've then got the New Glenn, which he's launching now, and his 3rd generation heavy rocket is going to be, guess what, the New Armstrong. So he's kept the historic relevances and all the rest. And his landing spacecraft he's going to be sending a spacecraft to land on the moon, with astronauts in late 20s, early 30s, and so on. So that's just Jeff Bezos. Then you've got Elon Musk with his Starlink. And Starlink's big in the news at the moment on the Isle of Man, of course, because with his Manx Telecom going to fibre, I know lots of people are looking at the options, and Starlink is certainly one of them. So who knows, you might end up with communicating with Elon Musk's satellites from your home here in the Isle of Man. And as well as that, I've just learnt that the NASA have approved the budget at last for Dragonfly, and Dragonfly is a mission which is going to send a helicopter to one of the moons of Saturn. It's going to launch in 2028, which is a long way off, but the funding for that has now been approved. So that's another mission. And then about 2 years ago, there was a mission going to the moon called Viper. They are always acronyms. VIP will stand for something. And they were going to send this spacecraft to the moon, and they pulled the plug on it. They couldn't find the funding for it. It's been resurrected. And it's going to the moon next year. So this is just a handful of things that are going on, and trying to keep pace is amazing.
Howard, I don't want to be stupid, naive, or whatever this is going to sound, but isn't this an extraordinary amount of activity up in space? And
Very much
isn't there
so.
going to be a lot of debris left behind
Yes.
from these?
Most certainly, and that is a huge problem. There is a huge problem with orbital debris. What we're having now is you launch one rocket. For instance, we're going to launch these 2 satellites to Mars. That will launch into space. The rocket will have a payload bay, and that payload bay will have clamshell doors on it, and they will separate, and the satellites will get propelled on the way. But there'll be a small motor, there'll be a small engine which will have to propel them to Mars or so far to get them to their orbital speed or escape velocity from the Earth. So you've got that debris, you've got the clamshell doors from the payload bay, you've got the second or third stage of the rocket. All these bits of stuff go into space. And yes, space is huge, as we were just talking about earlier. But all this orbital debris, the space station itself is monitoring, or they're doing it on the Earth. On the space station, they're monitoring it hourly, minute by minute almost, to see if anything is coming in. Because what you've got is in space, things move very, very fast. To stay in orbit, you've got to be travelling at 17,000 miles an hour. If you're in a highly elliptical orbit, you're going to be coming in at 30,000 miles an hour, something like that. If a fleck of paint, for instance, will put a dinge in a space shuttle window, and there have been pictures of that shown on the internet many a time. So you've got to be so careful that nothing causes an impact. So back to your comment. What are we doing about it? There is research taking place at the moment about how they can collect all this stuff and do something with it, but it's a huge problem. And in 100 years' time or so, if we keep launching at the rate we're launching now, it could be a problem that could prevent spacecraft going into Earth orbit, and who knows where that would lead to.
This is it. It's the don't know factor,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
And we cannot afford to leave a legacy of problems for people who come maybe even 50 years.
Yeah, I think we are doing
ahead.
now. It's a bit like we've become aware of the climate and we've become aware of our effects on the environment in the Earth. And that is a relatively modern thing in the last 10, 15 years or whatever. And it's the same as space. We've been exploiting it for all our worth since the 60s. And now we're beginning to realise, well, hang on, we need to be a bit more realistic about what we're doing. And I think legislation is going to be needed. The UN or some organisation is going to have to do something about restricting access to space unless you can prove that you can dispose of the debris that is no longer needed in a responsible way.
Yeah. Now, Howard, here's something new on the list. The Parker Solar Probe.
The Parker Solar Probe is actually quite unique because it's a spacecraft that's named after a solar scientist called Parker, and he's still alive, and it's a great honour to have a spacecraft named after you when you're still alive. And this spacecraft is in orbit around the Sun, but very close to the Sun. If we think of things being close to the Sun, like the Earth is 93 million miles from the Sun and Mercury is 30 million miles from the Sun, this thing is less than 1 million miles from the Sun, this spacecraft. And it's whipping round the Sun at a huge speed, and it's just broken the speed record for a man-made object, 687,000 kilometres an hour. As I was just explaining about things in orbit, when they come closer to the object they're orbiting, like the Earth, and I was just talking about, or the Sun in this case, they go faster and then they're slow and they go out. And this thing, 687,000 miles, you can't think about those sort of speeds, can you?
No.
And it's done 25 passes of the Sun now, and it's still going strong. It's well protected and shielded from the solar radiation and the heat, etc. And it's proving marvellous because it's producing marvellous images and details and ideas about the Sun, because the Sun is a thing we just don't know much about at all. It's one of those, we know how it shines, we know the basics, but we don't know enough detail about it, and that's what this probe is doing.
Because it is a bit untouchable, isn't it?
It is a bit, in more ways than one.
Yes.
And we need it rather essentially for our life on Earth, don't we?
We do. So, something to come back to. And here's something nice to finish with. Dream Chaser.
Yeah, lovely name for a spacecraft. Now, this Dream Chaser is a small space shuttle. It's actually built by a company, Sierra Nevada, and they've been planning this mission for a long, long time. It's a small spacecraft that will be launched on an old conventional rocket, but will come into land like the space shuttle used to do. It's much, much smaller than the space shuttle, and eventually the original plan was to launch men and women on it, and now it's just going to be used for carrying cargo up and down to the International Space Station. It's another means of getting up there and back, and the test launch of that is taking place literally in the next few weeks, so we'll look out for that one, because it'll be quite spectacular from a media point of view, seeing it come into land on the runway. And it's nice to see. Again, it's another private enterprise mission that has finally got sufficient funding and has now got to the stage where it's going to be launched, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, as we always say, more and more of these stories are coming into national news, but nobody tells them quite the way our Howard does. Howard, we have, of course, been beaten by the clock. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You've been listening to Howard Parkin presenting this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night. Don't forget the challenge, how many stars you can see in the Square of Pegasus, and join in again on the final Sunday in the month of October, 9:30 here on Manx Radio. Howard Parkin, Faster Mai.
Faster Mai, Judith.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.